So today we got to work on some cases. This is a problem that develops sometimes in the Evolution motors, and I've seen it more than once. So what we're going to try to do is I've got one good case half off of one good case half off another. We're going to mate the two cases together and line ream it, make sure they're in line, and then we're going to deck the top of it. And hopefully those cases will be good to use. One of the common problems, and as we were doing a motor rebuild for someone, we didn't notice it. When they're covered under wrinkle paint and such, you don't notice it. So it's, as sad as it is, it's almost worth it to try and have a look to see what's happening. Prime example is this case here. Now I know that it's hard to see, but along the seam line here, there's a small crack. It was very hard to see and hard to tell, but along the top was a crack, and along the inside was a small crack developing there. So what would have happened with these cases had you put them together? They would have looked like this. This piece would have broke right out, and it's not uncommon. As you can see, that's why I have one here, and it's that whole center section. It's kind of a problem with some of the Harley cases. So a person has to take their time and inspect what they're working with to see. Unfortunately, this guy's case was ruined, and he opted to put a new S&S case in, and that would fix that. But this is something to look for. We wouldn't have seen it until we cleaned everything all up. It was barely a hairline crack, but as you can see across here, it's cracked all the way. So what we're going to do is put some new cases together. We're set up and we're ready to go, so we'll show you what we got to go through to get these cases to match up. So this is a case half that we're going to use. We've inspected all the holes. The breather gear hole is good in it. There's hardly any marks in it at all, so it's good. And the pinion race is not scored up in here. So what we're going to do is put the halves together and hone this out with the two halves together, so we know that the pinion bearings are running in line. We've got a new set of bearings here. And they're a match set, so they should go together the way they come out of this bag. We have our races, our bearings, the center pieces, this center piece, we always take one set of races, and whatever we're going to put on the inside of them, I like to be able to mark them. So if I put the orange tie back around this bearing, I know that this goes with the inside race. And this is our case race. Inside one, all right. We're going to slip the other ones back in the bag for the time being, so there's no mistake. First thing that needs to go in is this big clip in the middle. This clip always has to go on the top. And this, inside this case, which is hard to see, but there is a hole in the top which gets oil down through here. So this clip, or whatever you want to call it, has to go in there with that hole facing up. So we're just going to work it down in there a little bit. And there we go. It's popped in the center case with the oil hole around the top. You can tap it around a little bit this way, or tap it around a little bit this way. It'll help you center it up in the hole in there. I'm going to take a little bit of oil, just put it around there and around the outside of the race. Just helps things go in a lot easier. So we're not going to pound it in, but what we want to do is just start it. Go around by tapping it. And we're looking pretty close there. A little bit there. And there we go. Okay, we're going to take it over to the press and press this side in. One thing to remember when you're pressing these in, that the tapered side is out because the bearing has to fit in there in the inside. So don't put them in backwards. All right, we'll go to the press. And we press it down right till it comes up against our big C-clip inside. A little oil on everything. This one's a little tougher to get in there. Getting it lined up straight. All right. And we make sure that's seated in there. See, going this side, we've supported the bottom of the case so that you're not just pressing on the case, you're pressing on a supported area. And those look good in there. Okay, back to the bench. So when we got everything out of the bag, all of our bearings and such, there was this small clip inside. And this clip actually spaces it between the two races. So when you put your flywheels in, you put this clip on the flywheel before you put the other bearing on the outside, and that sets the distance in there so that your Timken bearings are not squashed out. So we make sure not to lose this. We put it back in the bag. What we're planning on doing now is we're going to take our two case halves, stick them on here, and get the nut on that one. And we'll get our two case halves together, put some bolts in them. So we're going to go along here and bolt our cases all together, and then we'll show you how we're going to make those bearings fit. They've got different kinds of bolts. Some of them are bigger here, and those are alignment bolts in the case. They'll go in there. We've got them started in there. We're just going to start our bolts on those, our nuts. In most of the way, but not letting the end stick out. That way we can tap on these nuts and we won't bugger up the threads. All right. What we're going to do is go around, torque all these bolts down as if you were putting the motor together before we start. So the next thing we're going to do is torque this cases together. It's good to have your manual here because it gives you the torquing, not only the torquing values, but also tell you to the sequence of which to torque first. So we're going to go by it and we're going to try to torque this thing down. There we go. These are set between 15 and 17 pounds. All right, so now we have the engine all torqued down. The cases are right. There's not much else we can do with it here. For decking the cases, we're going to take them and get them done. But now we're going to work on the pinion shaft and getting that out to size. So we'll need our reamers, and I've made a special tool to go in there, and we'll use those. So what we got here is your standard sort of transmission lap. It's made and it comes with different arbor sizes like these. Some like these size. These size. We've got smaller ones here for Sportster applications. Basically they're the laps for a transmission, but what I've done is modified a few pieces, and I've bought myself an 1 3/4 lap, I believe it is, to do the pinion shaft. In order to modify our standard unit, all we had to do was we made a piece like this. We made this hole so that our lap will slide right through it. And we've made it so that we can put a bearing on. We'll put our spacer in. We'll put another bearing on it. Inside the case, mind you, this will be with these races. And then we've made this piece threaded and we've countersunk it here so as not to interfere with the slight shoulder that sets up, so we can press just on the bearings and not on our tool itself. Once that's tightened up in the case, these will roll along. What we're going to do next is take our arbor for our tool, and these things are tapered on both ends. You can see a small side and a big side. So the big side goes on the taper here like this. We put the threaded piece on. And we'll tighten it up. We can make minor adjustments as we go by loosening this off, forcing the lap in here a little bit, and it causes it to spread out. But we don't want to take too much to start with, so we're just going to start with that kind of a standard setting. And we're going to lock all our pieces in place. Once this goes in the motor, this can go in this way. It will go through this in the engine case and keep our shafts in line as to where they should be, like this. So we'll lap this pinion race, and it's just a manual type of system. We just have this big handle on it that comes with it to do your transmission cases, and we'll just turn this by hand and hand lap it. So we're going to get all this set up in our engine case, and then we'll show you what's going on. One thing to remember: if you make something like this and you go to use these Timken bearings that are in here is an old set of bearings. Same with the spacer. They were a set. So we keep them together like that so we can use them for these kind of applications. Never, 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 never use new bearings in there. You'll end up with compound on them, with lapping compound on them, and they will chew it up in no time at all. Also, when you clean your cases out, I know everything's got to be cleaned out vigorously and done properly. All the small holes in the pinion race have to be all blown out. I squirt them through with like brake cleaner, contact cleaner, flush everything out completely, and make sure that even in this area in here where stuff would have fallen down, everything's washed out to get all of the lapping compound grit out. If not, you'll pay the consequences. Other than that, move ahead with it. So we've got our engine case bolted down to our welding table here so it doesn't move around and it's on an engine stand. So we're going to start assembling the pieces. First off, we'll get our bearings ready to go in, and we're going to screw some oil on them. So everything will spin freely. We're going to put some oil on the races as well. Alright, we've got our bearing, we've got the little small spacer in there as well. So we're going to take this piece and put it in this side of the engine cases. Bearing oil on there. Just slide that over our shaft and screw the inside piece on. There we go. Get that snugged up. And we're going to check our lap here. Put some oil on it. Oops. So it will slide through into our machined piece. That lines us right up with the pinion shaft. It should be. Make sure we're seated in the hole. Tighten our handle on. Then it's going to allow us to go through the engine case back and forth. So now that we've got everything ready to go, so we can hand crank this, we're going to pull this out. We're going to oil up this end of it really good. Oil up our bearings there so they're seated nice. And we'll lock this into position on the adjustment. And we'll cover this whole thing with the lapping compound. So we'll take our initial measurement out of here to see where we're at. And we'll take a couple passes through and we'll see how much it's cleaning up. So we're getting between 751 and 750. I think 751 is generally the size that they come as. So we've got something to work with. So we're going to go ahead and get on with the procedure. So we're going to oil up our arbor to go through it. Then we're going to take some lapping compound. Pretty light at first here, so and this will just be ongoing. What we have to do is we're looking for a nice surface in there, and we don't want to go any more than we have to. as we can go up tenths of a thou on our bearings. But what we want to do is make sure that we have a nice surface all the way around. And I can tell by the sounds of the lap that we're a little bit loose there. And we still have a tiny bit of a shiny spot in the back. So we're going to adjust our lap up a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. And then we'll come back and try it again. So we've dialed it up a little bit. So now we clean out the hole and see what it's like in there. What we're looking for is a nice uniform pattern, sort of a cross hatch, but we don't want any shiny spots at all. So we just need to clean things up a little bit, and we'll take some measurements there and figure out what size bearings we need for the pinion, and we'll get these decked. And then we'll go on to start putting it together. Flywheels first, I guess. One of the other things we have to check, because we've taken these cases and we've made one engine case out of two, we know that we've got the line board nice and straight now. Everything else fits good. We've checked with the light all around the seams. Everything fits good. But the tops of these decks might not be the same. So with everything bolted and torqued together, what we're going to do is take a small ruler and we're going to stick it in there. As you can see, with the amount of light that's escaping through underneath of it, we can tell that these surfaces are not level. These surfaces need to be milled off straight. We need to mount these in a milling machine, turn them around, take a cut across there, take a cut across there. Clean these off so they're perfectly level. Gaskets will suck up some, and they may take up some, but these are far enough down there that we're going to need to do something with it. So we're going to have to deck the tops of these cases and get them level, and then we can go on with the build.